you just like flowed right into something else that stood out to me from the book. And this is something that I mentioned to you a couple of days ago when we were chatting,
Mm,
which was there's a chapter in here that says it's about a day in his life,
mm-hmm.
you know, when as a chef. And it's of course a crazy, crazy long day. And it just kind of stood out to me how much he accomplishes or accomplished like in one day versus
Mm-hmm.
again I was thinking about like the average person for lack of better words, but he seems to do so much more in one day than like a lot of us do in a month, which
Yeah.
was is like mind blowing to me, like the dedication and the drive to his kind of craft. But it's like ridiculous. So by the time you're 40 and you've been putting in that many full days into what you do, it almost is like living a full life, at least when it comes to the career side of things for him. I don't know about
Yeah.
the other
No, but
sides, right? There's
yeah,
obviously was a mix of different things going on with his life.
yeah, whether it be drug abuse or I more or less felt bad for his wife, to be honest. If he's
Yeah.
working that many hours, I'm
Yeah.
very like good on her for sticking around that much. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that must have been a rough situation
Yes.
to deal with overall, which also is a thing that's shedded light on, you know, a lot of these people, even like there was a chapter in the
Yeah.
book where he talked to one of his bosses, and was like, hey, I got a girlfriend. I barely ever see her. And the guy's like, I don't see my wife either. And we love each other and blah, blah, blah. And then he ends up like, yeah, I think he ended up killing her or something. Like it was a whole thing. Yeah. I don't know if you got to that part of the book yet, but
I did not, yeah, not that
yeah.
part. Tell us
So
more about that.
it might have been like she killed him or he killed her. I don't remember, but like there was an incident that happened like after like, and he said that like recently after, like very close after he made the comment about like how his boss said that to him. So it was like a kind of like a thing of like this is the industry. These people work fucking 24 hours a day and they don't have an outside life if they don't like really push for it. And
So how do
it's
you
like
what do you feel about that? Like what are your thoughts on that?
doing the startup life for a little while, like the hardcore startup life. Um, I I don't envy it. I don't envy it at all. There's no part of me that really enjoys. It's like there. It's that 24/7 grind that people. I mean, everybody that I had a coworker, and he was one of the guys or one of the founders that um he had a girlfriend, but he was in the office 24/7,
Yeah.
and he would take like every other weekend to go see her. And I was like, dude, I don't know how you do that. I have like there's no part of me that would ever want to do that, unless like maybe I just haven't found the passion. Maybe I haven't found the thing that like drives me enough to seclude myself for months on end, to push forth a project. But I don't know. And even with that, with the book, it's just very much that mindset of like, this is your life. You live and breathe this stuff. Even when he got home, he's sitting there thinking about like menus for the next day and what he has to order and all that shit as he
First
climbs.
thing in the morning when he wakes up in his bed,
Exactly. It's
putting
like
on a
there's no
cigarette,
stop.
thinking about the menu.
Yep. There's no stop. There's no break. There's no nothing.
And I
Um,
think he said he tried to be a polite, civilized human being for a couple of minutes while talking to his wife in the morning before he
mhm.
left and headed on with his day.
Yeah, but you have to be though, and that's like and it's weird that like um that was kind of the mentality of everybody within that industry, or at least the one during like the late, what was it, the 80s and
Okay, so I have a
90s.
question for you. And I also have personal experience with this topic because
Sure.
that's what Evan's life was like when we first met.
Sure.
He was just hardcore, into his work and doing whatever he could to push projects through. And it was very difficult for us to have time together, if at
Yeah.
all. But luckily we were long distance in the beginning, and so it kind of worked out
Sure.
that way. But now it's much better. But do you think do you
What's
think it's
necessary
necessary to be like that?
to
Do
be
you
like
think
what?
that well, so our whole, we're talking about people who have garnered success in some way. Do you think it's necessary to be that hardcore about what you do? Do it morning, day, afternoon, evening, in your sleep, every day, 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day, live, breathe, dream that thing. Do you think that that's a necessary ingredient to success?
That's a good question. I I've battled with that question for a while because like the baseline answer is yes. Like the overall
Hmm.
like the surface level answer is like if you want to get somewhere, you want to do something, you have to work for it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, um at least with my experience with doing video and doing creative things, if I'm just doing that forever and I'm doing that like constantly, I don't have any source of inspiration because I can't like create things just out of nothing. I need to have experiences. I need to talk to people. I need to like just like let my mind wander for a little bit. And if my mind doesn't move itself away from something, it won't allow it to expand. But with that also being said, that is a different industry. That is a different topic. That is a different thing. So I think it all depends on where you're at. If you're pushing numbers, if you're doing things that like quantity over quality, then absolutely the tough grind is the way to do it. Um, but at the same time, if it's quality over quantity, I really think that like it's a lot of time management that's a little bit more important than that. But again, it's a tough one
Mm.
because that's also something I'm fighting myself on because everybody that's what everybody does. Everybody sits down, gets a company, and just pours their heart into it for 2 years, and they're good. But that's a long, long 2 years.
Yeah. You know who I didn't get that impression from as much was Mindy Kaling. It
Yeah, it's
seemed
true.
like it seemed like she had a pretty balanced life. Of course, she works hard and she was very, very dedicated to her work. But at the
Hmm.
same time, she talked about other things. Like she talked about dating and she had
Hmm.
those experiences while she was working. And it just seemed like there was a little bit more of a balance there. So kind of looking back, and with Matthew McConaughey, I couldn't quite tell. Like, of course, his work ethic is clear from reading his work and obviously like seeing him as well, seeing
Hmm.
his work. But he also took those breaks that he needed, kind of like what you were talking about, where he would just completely tune out from everything
Yeah.
and center himself. And I wonder if that was one of the um, kind of conflict points in Anthony Bourdain's life. I have no idea, but we didn't see that as much from his book, that taking that time to kind of return to center when things got busy or things got difficult to handle.
I think it's also
Um,
he was also a product of the people around him though. Because if
mm,
everybody around you is doing all of that, like, after work you go get high, you go to the bar, you
mm,
go do things, and then you wake up on the beach in the morning and then go back to work, that's that's the life you live then, right? Like that, because if
mm,
everybody else is doing it around you and that's just the way of that life and everybody's having fun, um, that's just you kind of just tag along, I guess, especially if you're an impressionable young kid and then you kind of grow up in that industry and working 12-hour days just becomes normalcy. Um,
mhm.
and it just becomes like the thing. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It's kind of like a weird topic because where our our show is about success, but then also we know that he committed suicide. And
Correct.
so we're looking at, we're looking at this book and everything in it, but then also with the backstory of knowing kind of what, happens at the end.
Yeah.
Um, so, so yeah, I mean, I think like, 12-hour days, 14-hour days. I think the reality as well is that those do take a toll on people. And so you
I
can
think so.
only work like that for so long.
Yeah.